Before we begin, I'm going to go ahead, Mr. Brock. Go ahead on a point of order.
Thank you, Chair. Given the nature of the anticipated evidence and the controversy surrounding it, I will be requesting that both witnesses be sworn or affirmed to tell the truth.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brock. So you're moving a motion to have the witnesses swear an oath or affirm. Okay, so any objection to that, Mr. Nakvi? Go ahead.
Thanks, Chair. I will object to this. We've had this conversation before in other committees with Mr. Brock on the other side asking for something similar, and I've always made the point that that's not the practice. In parliamentary committees, it is assumed that all witnesses are going to be telling the truth. This is not required by the standing orders either, and I think it sets a dangerous precedent, and I think it really undermines the witnesses in terms of that they somehow will not be sharing the truth if they are not sworn and affirmed. And so I request that this motion be denied. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just for clarification's sake, to Mr. Brock, you did move this on a point of order, so you can't move it on a point of order. I've been notified by the clerk on that. I see that we have no consensus on this. I do see Mr. Fisher's hand. I had Mr. Green, then Mr. Villemure on this. So effectively, the point of order and movement of the motion, there's no discussion to be had at this point because it was moved on a point of order. So I am going to not allow this to happen. I don't see any further discussion on this. I see Mr. Villemure's hand is down. Mr. Fisher, do you have... Okay.
I was going to say exactly what you said, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to go to Mr. Fisher, who's online. Mr. Fisher, you have 6 minutes. Go ahead, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank our witnesses for being present today. And just before I begin my questions to Ms. Poon, I want to share just a few thoughts on what brought us here today. Twice now, Conservative members have run ramshod over a reasonable process by calling committee meetings and calling witnesses, only to find out after the passage of those motions that the Ethics Commissioner has looked into the issue and found no issue. We've seen it reported in several media outlets. The Ethics Commissioner has written to Minister Boissonnault to let him know that he reviewed the information twice. We've seen this. And here we are, and this is the second time that the commissioner has looked into this innuendo, found that there was no cause for concern. It's also the second time the Conservatives have ignored the response
Fisher,
from the Ethics Commissioner. Yes, sir.
I've stopped your clock.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just going to remind you that a motion was passed by the committee.
I understand.
In order to have this meeting, and a majority of the members voted to have this meeting. It wasn't the Conservatives, the NDP, the Bloc, or the Liberals, nor was it I that called this meeting. We are acting at the will of the committee. So I just want to remind you of that, Mr. Fisher.
Thank you,
5 minutes
Mr.
and 10
Chair.
seconds. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I will say that when we had those conversations on those, we had all said on our side of the bench that we have an ethics commissioner and that we provide this information to him, let him do his work and rule on this on his own time frame and then come back and talk about it. If there's an issue, we didn't decide to do that. So here we are today. Again, after the second time the ethics commissioner has said there's nothing to see here, we are still here. Again, on our side, Mr. Chair, we'll do our best to stick to the facts. Ms. Poon, we've heard a great deal, as you put it, of innuendo and conjecture, and I just wanted to add maybe even pure exaggeration from some members in this committee in the past few months. I'd like to take an opportunity just to go over some, if you could, of the basic facts. Can you confirm you have never lobbied Minister Boissonnault?
Thank you for the opportunity to set the record straight. I have never lobbied Minister Boissonnault or his staff.
Thank you. Can you confirm that Minister Boissonnault has never set up a meeting with federal officials or staff in other ministers' offices on your behalf?
Minister Boissonnault has never helped me set up any meetings with any officials in any offices.
Can you confirm that the political staff that you met with at Finance Canada reported to Minister Freeland, not to Minister Boissonnault?
All the staff I met with reported to Minister Freeland. They in no way reported to Minister Boissonnault in any way whatsoever.
Thank you. Can you confirm again that you did not in any way leverage your relationship with the minister to get those meetings?
I have never leveraged my relationship or connection to Minister Boissonnault to set up meetings.
And as far as you know, to your knowledge, did Mr. Boissonnault work fully with the Ethics Commissioner to arrange his business affairs after re-election, as the Ethics Commissioner has said?
Yes, I would say that the minister regularly and thoroughly reports all his activities to the Ethics Commissioner, and he does this every year. He also did, from the very beginning, let the Ethics Commissioner know that I was registered as a lobbyist.
Can you confirm that your professional relationship with EIA predated their relationship with Minister Boissonnault?
Yes, I started working with the airport in 2018, which predates any relationship or work that the minister has done with the airport.
As has been noted, during the time you were representing Edmonton International Airport, they received several grants from the federal government. Can you confirm that none of these grants came from departments that Minister Boissonnault was in charge of?
The minister has never been part of the approval of any grants awarded to the Edmonton International Airport. No departments reporting to Minister Boissonnault have been involved with any of the grants related to the airport, and nor his staff have ever been in any of the approval processes related to the airport.
Can you confirm that during the time you worked together between 2019 and 2021, the Minister Boissonnault did not participate in any lobbying activity? The minister never sat in on or arranged meetings with government officials at all during that period?
The minister has never been involved in any lobbying activity and has never sat in on any meetings with officials.
And can you confirm that you hadn't met Mr. Anderson before today and that you have no insight into the operations of the company Global Health Imports?
Yeah, I've never met Mr. Anderson or spoken to Mr. Anderson. I have no insight into any of the operations of Global Health Imports.
Ms. Poon, some members of this committee have expressed concern about Minister Boissonnault's use of the legal name of your company in his ethics disclosure versus the trade name Navis Group. Can you talk a little bit about that? I understand you changed the name of your company to Navis after Minister Boissonnault's re-election. Can you give us a down low on the timeline there?
Yes, and actually, this is an important question and one that I would like to clarify. When Minister Boissonnault and I worked together when he was a private citizen, I only used the numbered company as my legal name. And my understanding is when he makes his disclosures that he actually is supposed to register the legal name. I did not register the trade name until November 2021, which is after his re-election. I did not tell the minister that I registered that as my trade name because I did not feel like that was information relevant to him. I registered the trade name to meet my requirements as a consultant lobbyist. So that is also something I would certainly not tell him as it related to my lobbying activity. I don't think the minister actually knew about the trade name until a couple months ago, but my understanding from the beginning was that he was required to disclose the legal name of my company, which is my numbered company name.
Okay, thank you for that clarity. Much has been made about the fact that you were able to get meetings with officials. However, a significant reason for those meetings is that you were representing EIA. Is that true?
Yes.
Quick response.
The airport has its own existing relationships.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Okay.
Thank you. We're out of time, Mr. Fisher. We're going to go to Mr. Baines now for 5 minutes. Go ahead, Mr. Baines.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to our witnesses for joining us today. Ms. Poon, can you confirm, I think you indicated that you worked together between 2019 and 2021, Minister Boissonnault did not participate in any lobbying activity. Can you confirm that?
In 2020 and 2021, Minister Boissonnault was a private citizen. He complied with his cooling off period and has never been involved in any of my lobbying activities.
And so the minister never sat in or arranged meetings with government officials at all during that period?
He has never sat in on any meetings, and he has never helped me set up or engage any meetings with any government officials.
And what about Mr. Anderson? Can you confirm that you hadn't met Mr. Anderson before today?
I have never met Mr. Anderson before today.
And you have no insight into operations of the company Global Health Imports?
No insight into any of the operations of Global Health Imports.
And just on the name use, some members have expressed concern about Minister Bosnell's use of the legal name of your company in the ethics disclosure. I think you spoke about that versus the trade name Navis Group, and you changed the name of your company to Navis Group after the election. How about the grant process? Can you talk a little bit about the grant process? We've heard also in media reports that government's just handing out grants like willy-nilly here, but based on single meetings. Could you talk in general sense about the grant application process and how detailed and thorough it is when you're looking for applying for any grants?
Yes, happy to answer the question, and thank you, as this is very important. The grant application process is very rigorous. It requires a lot of detailed information, and it's reviewed by many eyes. All grant programs have a set of criteria that needs to be met before any of the approval, and this review and approval process takes a long time. It's not just meeting with officials and then receiving a check. There is a very arduous grant application process that needs to happen.
How long does it take?
I think it varies. I don't have a lot of experience in this area, but I think it can take months, a year, or even longer, depending on what's needed. So
for your company, who was putting the grant application forward?
The Edmonton International Airport put together their grant application.
Okay. And I'm going to move on to Mr. Anderson. Can you confirm that you've confirmed already, I believe, that Minister Bosnell stepped down as director of GHI following his election? Can you confirm that Minister Bosnell is not named in any outstanding lawsuits GHI may be dealing with?
That's correct.
And
I don't think your microphone was on. I don't know, Mr. Baines, whether you got that answer, but he did answer it. That's correct, just so you're aware.
Correct? Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure. Okay. So on June 4th, Global News reported on a text, you had a representative of a company called the Gowie Group in an exchange. And even though you made the statement to Global saying the individual named Randy mentioned in the exchange was not the minister, can you confirm again? And you've indicated that you can provide this information in maybe in camera or whatever. Can you maybe provide that in writing at some point?
Provide what in writing, sorry?
The name of the other Randy you're talking about, the individual that you're talking about, that you said that it was an autocorrect and it was not the minister. And you've indicated today that you are willing to share that in camera. Can you share that in writing to the committee?
I would share it with the committee, just like as the last member had asked about in June, you had asked me for records. I did reply back to the clerk and offered to provide the text messages and call logs. I did ask that private information about my health and with family was held in camera.
Talking about, sorry, Mr. Anderson, I'm asking about, you've indicated that you're willing to provide that information in camera. I'm just saying, would you provide the correct information, the correct name, the unauto-corrected name to the committee in writing in some capacity? You can submit that to us.
Quick response, please.
Yes.
Okay. Merci. Thank you, Mr. Baines.
Thank you very much, Chair. Appreciate the time. So there's a lot of different facts that's going on, and I think it's creating some confusion. So I just want to make sure that put on the record again, I think it's clear that Minister Boissonnault has provided his text messages to this committee, and they showed no phone calls, no text messages, no WhatsApp messages to Mr. Anderson, and that's before this committee. I also understand that when it comes to GHI, reading the media reports, that the minister has unconditionally surrendered for cancellation his shares in the business. In other words, he's not sold them. There was no monetary gain from the disposal of his shares in the company, and that's been reported in the media as well. And I think it's really important that we have that clarified. I will go to Mr. Anderson, and sir, I think I agree with some of my colleagues' assertion that you're creating a little bit more confusion than necessary in terms of answering the questions. You have testified again and again that the Randy mentioned in the text messages in question is not Randy Boissonneau. That relationship ended in September of 2021. The question that is, then who are you talking about?
I've said over and over, it is not Randy Boissonneau. It is actually a female that worked in our organization and was heavily involved in managing day-to-day businesses. She is going through her own ordeals, and she has asked us not to reveal it based on the assertions of what she has seen Shauna go through, as well as myself, which is why I've said that I would be happy to give that information in camera, knowing that that person is not going to go through the same thing that we've all endured.
Okay. So you are willing to share that information. You're trying to protect, for personal reasons, an individual who you now is saying is a female. So thank you for sharing that information. I think in an answer to my colleague, Mr. Baines, you have agreed to provide that information in writing. Would you confirm that you will provide that information, the name of that individual, in writing to this committee?
I will provide the information if it's in camera, yes, for sure.
You earlier agreed to providing that information in writing. Are you agreeing to providing that information, the name of that person, in writing to this committee?
I'm not sure if I would.
You're not sure. So the only way you will provide this information is in camera. That's what you suggested.
That's correct.
Because I think that's what's creating so much.
I can talk to the person.
It will provide definitely clarity.
100%.
Right? That your business relationship, ended with Randy Boissonneau in September of 2021, and the Randy that you claim is an autocorrect is actually some other individual, and that name, in order to protect that individual, you are not able to provide right now.
Correct.
And I just want to get this again one more time, that you have had no business or personal relationship with Mr. Boissonneau since September 2021, just before he was elected.
That's correct. None.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I've got time for 2 and 2. I got 2 more minutes. I think I'm going to Mr. Nakvi. Am I?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, Chair, I'm just going to say to you, I think the next part of the committee, we're going in camera anyways. Why don't we just go in camera and just hear the name?
So I'm going to need a motion to do that, Mr. Nakvi. Go ahead, Mr. Barrett, on your point of order.
Which will stop Mr. Nakvi's time and gives him a moment there for his motion.
His
also.
time's been stopped. Yeah.
But I, before the committee, if the committee does elect to go in camera, are you able to provide the committee with an update on whether or not the previous information requested from the witness has been provided to the committee with respect to his phone records? Has he provided those?
I can inform the committee that information has not been provided up to this point. Mm-hmm. And there has in fact been multiple requests, Mr. Barrett, for Mr. Anderson to provide that information by the clerk. On a point of order, Mr. No. Well, Mr. Nakvi has the floor, Mr. Barrett, Mr. Brock. So Barrett, are you done with your point of order? Yes, sir. Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Nackby.
Mr. Chair, I move that we move in camera and have Mr. Anderson share the name with the committee.
Okay, so we have a motion from Mr. Nackby. It's duly moved to move in camera to have Mr. Anderson provide the name of the Randy. Do I have consensus on that? No. We do not have consensus to move in camera. So I am going to call the vote. Go ahead. Just let me clarify that, okay? Just going to ask Mr. Nackby, state your motion one more time for me, please.
I just simply move that we move in camera and have Mr. Anderson share the name.
Okay. That's not a dilatory motion. It's a debatable because you're making a specific request to have Mr. Anderson provide the name. If it was simply to move in camera, then that would be a motion that would be non-debatable. So we do have debate. I'm going to open it up to Mr. Barrett. Go ahead.
Well, Chair, the reason that I asked, and I'm keenly interested to get the name of this other Randy. The testimony from the witness is not credible, but he said that he'll offer. Mr. Anderson has said that he'll offer the information in camera. He had a June deadline to provide the text, instant messaging, and phone call logs from the dates outlined by the committee, and said he would only do so if the he missed the deadline, and then said he would only do so if a committee agreed to protection of personal information, which the chair provided that assurance. And he knew he was coming today, and he didn't provide it. That's operating in bad faith. So we have answers that are just not credible, and I challenge anyone around the table to say that they do believe that his responses with respect to who the other Randy is or what was in those text messages was an autocorrect. That's absurd. His answers aren't credible. He has not been a good faith actor in terms of providing information that was requested by this committee or meeting his obligations when he did say that he would provide them. And so we're left to really have to weigh what the value is of closing a public meeting, because I know that we have a motion that we would like to move with respect to the testimony that we've heard today. That opportunity will be lost should we move in camera. Now, if the decision of the committee is to simply move in camera, to hear the response from Mr. Anderson, which frankly, Chair, he could write the name on a piece of paper, hand it to the clerk. The clerk could confirm that she's received the name and that it'll be shared with members confidentially. Well, that would negate the need for us to move in camera. But I'm not comfortable with us shutting down a public hearing where we have a witness who has refused to answer questions, which is a contempt of this committee. He has refused to answer. That is not a privilege that he has to refuse to answer, and so we can't support moving in camera. But I would just say, quite simply, the witness could write the individual's name, the supposed individual, and provide it to the clerk. And the clerk could walk over there, pick it up. It requires no translation, and it could be treated confidentially and circulated to members with an understanding that it is confidential. There's no other information that's been proposed by Mr. Nackby to solicit from the witness in camera, and then that would allow us to move a motion that's germane to the proceedings today, because this is absolutely unacceptable, the way the witness has conducted himself, and Canadians deserve answers, and that's why the committee chose to meet today to get answers.
Okay, well, I appreciate that, Mr. Barrett. I do have a speaker's list on the motion by Mr. Nackby to move in camera so that Mr. Anderson can provide the name. And next on the list, I have Mr. Brock.
Yes,
Mr. Brock,
I don't want to
go ahead.
belabor the point. Thank you, Chair. I don't want to belabor the point. I concur wholly with the commentary from my colleague, Mr. Barrett. But the danger that I see, and this is my opinion only, the danger I see with disclosing the identity of this mysterious Randy in camera is that it denies the ability of Canadians who have been dealing with this ethical issue, this potential breach, this potential act of criminality from Minister Randy Boissonnault for the better part of 2 months. And given that this particular witness had every opportunity to give us that information, not only today, but a month and a half prior, pursuant to a ruling of this particular committee, concerns me. And it concerns, in my view, it concerns Canadians who are watching this and want to know, finally, who the Randy is that was referenced in these very damning text messages. Their interest is even more piqued, I would suggest, because we have Mr. Anderson now as a self-admitted liar. It really goes full circle to my request that I did incorrectly, and I apologize to the committee. Should have brought the motion simply as a motion and not of a point of order, because there is merit, absolute merit, and it is not a signal at all as to the veracity or ethical position taken by witnesses, but it is a standard practice that has been adopted in numerous committees where you have very, very important issues of ethical issues to be debated and discussed. This is a commonplace issue that is happening across numerous committees. I dare say there is probably some reference in our Green Book to the ability to ask for this. And I find it ironic that my Liberal colleague, Mr. Nakvi, a former Attorney General of Ontario, would take the position that we should just presume that witnesses who testify at committee are presumed to tell the truth without that ambit of scrutiny, the honest oath given on a Bible or some other religious instrument, or an affirmation to tell the truth. It binds the conscience of individuals to give us the straight facts without holding anything back, without embellishing. And in this particular case, he admits that he lies. In the former environment that Mr. Nakvi and I participated in, it happens every day in thousands of hearings in Ontario. It does not presume a lack of credibility with any witness. It's just a requirement that binds the conscience. And I think Canadians, given all of these circumstances, and now hearing that this witness is adamant that there is so much secrecy surrounding this particular surname of another Randy, if it is even Randy, because we don't even know if the first name of this individual is Randy. Is it spelled? I heard the evidence that it is perhaps a female. So was it an autocorrect? Randy spelled with a Y versus Randy spelled with an I? Who knows? Or maybe a completely different surname altogether. These are questions that not only are parliamentarians grappling with, but the nation is grappling with, and the nation deserves to know the identity of this other person today. Full stop.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brock. Just before I go to Mr. Lloyd, who's next, I am going to ask the witnesses to remain in place until the committee disposes of this motion. And I have Mr. Lloyd on the list. Go ahead, Mr. Lloyd.
I have nothing further to say. Thank you.
Okay. So, The motion presented by Mr. Nakvi is that the committee move in camera to have Mr. Anderson reveal who the other Randy is. Do we have consensus on that? No. We do not have consensus. I'm going to ask the clerk to call the roll then on the motion as presented. Madam Clerk.
Motion to go in camera, Mr. Baines.
Yes.
Mr. Nagvi.
Yes.
Mr. Fisher.
Wait.
Ms. Gainey.
Wait.
Ms. Sedu.
Yes.
Mr. Barrett.
No.
Mr. Brock.
No.
Mr. Lloyd. Monsieur Villemur.
No.
Mr. Green.
No.
Mr. Chair, yeas 5, oui 5, nays 5, no 5.
Okay, my vote is no, Madam Clerk.
So yeas 5 and nays 6.
Okay, so the motion as presented by Mr. Nakvi has failed.